Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 20th installment of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links Best Decks series. Today I've got a kind of a special episode for you guys, as today I'm doing a Karate Man OTK deck, which a few of you may know is the first video I've ever uploaded to this channel was a Karate Man OTK deck, so I decided to revamp it, make a new list, but with the same kind of base combo. So a couple of things before I get into it. First of all, I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little off. It's also why my upload was a little late. I was pretty sick for a couple of days, but I'm back now, so decided to do a video. And the second thing is, if you guys have any suggestions or ideas for this deck, please let me know. I came up with this deck pretty much by myself. I didn't use any guides or any other people's deck lists and try to combine them. I just kind of made it myself. So if you guys have any suggestions or ideas I could add to the deck or change a card out for another card, please let me know, because I think it'd be kind of cool to make a Karate Man OTK deck that's actually really viable for the current meta. This deck is pretty close, but I wouldn't say it's like top tier or anything. It's maybe tier 3 at most. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Alrighty, so the best character for this deck is Joey Wheeler with the skill Last Gamble. What this skill does is, during your main phase, starting from the 5th turn, you can activate it, reduce your life points to 100 and discard 2 cards from your hand. You then roll a 6-sided die and draw a number of cards equal to the number you roll. This skill can only be used once per duel. This skill is absolutely perfect for combo decks, as it allows you to take cards out of your hand that are not part of the combo and just filler cards, discard them, and draw extra cards to fill up your hand, which all could be combo pieces. When I go through the strategy of this deck, it will become a lot more apparent as to why this skill is absolutely vital and is really strong with this deck. As drawing cards will allow you to essentially pull off your combo and make it hit, which again I'll go through when I go through the strategy. Alright, let's go to the deck list. The deck list for this deck is 3 Karate Man, 3 Iron Blacksmith Kotetsu, 3 Golden Apple, 3 Storm, 3 Magic Mallet, 2 Twin Swords of Flashing Light, Tryce, 1 Shooting Star Bow, Ceal, 1 Smoke Grenade of the Thief, 1 Windstorm of Etaqua. Alright, so as I said at the start of the video, if you guys have any suggestions for this deck, let me know. I'd love to see them, because this deck I did make myself and I would love to see a viable version of Karate Man built for the current meta, which is what I've tried to do here, but it's only roughly about tier 3. It wins a lot of games, but it won't win all, and certainly has struggles against top meta decks. The first thing you probably notice if you are used to using the Karate Man combo is this doesn't use Secret Pass to the Treasure, which is normally the 3 card combo associated with Karate Man. Instead, it uses Shooting Star Bow. This is because this card synergizes a lot more with this deck specifically, naming mostly Iron Blacksmith Kotetsu, which draws an equipped card from your deck, which is what Shooting Star Bow is. So it allows you to have less of the combo pieces and more ways of protecting your life points and still drawing the combo pieces, as Shooting Star Bow is essentially the exact same ability as Secret Pass to the Treasure, as it allows your Karate Man to hit your opponent's life points. Don't worry if you didn't understand what I just said. There will be, 1, I'll go through the strategy of the deck, and 2, there'll be gameplay at the end of the video, which will show it all off in action anyway. Another thing I'd like to point out about this deck specifically is the fact that there are 2 Twin Swords of Flashing Light and only 1 Shooting Star Bow. This is because you do need equipped spell cards in this deck to make it run. If you have too few, your deck will be weakened, because it will become more apparent when I go through the strategy or when you watch gameplay, but if you don't have equipped spells in your deck for your Iron Blacksmiths Kotetsus to draw, your deck will just be a lot weaker when that card gets flipped and dies, as you won't be able to draw extra cards to your hand to discard or to use in your combo. So having 2 Twin Swords and 1 Shooting Star allows you to have kind of the perfect amount of equipped spell cards for this deck to work. And the final thing I'll say is cards that you might want to replace in the deck. Cards that I'd say you can replace are things like Windstorm of Etaqua. You can replace with maybe enemy controllers. Same with the Golden Apples. They kind of work the same as enemy controllers, except a lot weaker for what this deck wants to achieve. But everything else I'd say is kind of key, and I wouldn't consider swapping out. Alright, now I'll go through the strategy of this deck. So, just so you know, this deck is fairly difficult to play. if you don't have practice. So if you practice a lot with this deck, it'll become a lot easier, but when you first get into it, it's all about timing, so it can be pretty hard to get the timing right. So the basic strategy of the deck is on the 5th turn of the duel, you'll activate your ability and then combo off. Your combo will be Karate Man, equipped with Twin Swords of Flashing Light and Shooting Star Bow, and then activate Karate Man's ability. Make sure you do it in that order, otherwise the ability won't actually work. What this allows you to do is then swing Karate Man at your opponent's life points twice for 4,000 damage, which if your opponent hasn't used any heals, is normally what their life point total will be, therefore killing them in one turn. To help achieve this combo, and what you will need to achieve this combo, you'll use Storm and Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Storm is essential. If you don't have a Storm in your hand, the idea is to try and delay even longer until you do get your Storm. Storm is nearly vital for the combo to work, as your opponent's spells and traps most of the time will contain enemy controllers, golden apples, Windstorm of Etaquas, mirror walls, anything that just stops your Karate Man doing the 4,000 damage to your opponent's life points. Nearly every trap in the game will do it. So what Storm allows you to do is destroy your own backline to destroy their backline. What I mean by this is you can set any amount of spells and traps, activate Storm, destroy those, and the amount of cards you just destroyed, you can then destroy from your opponent's spell and trap card zone. And once your opponent's backline is gone, your combo will easily hit your opponent, nearly 90% of the time. And the other 10% of the time, you'll find your opponent will have a Sphere Karibo. This card is known as the Karate Man killer, pretty much. It's the reason Karate Man was never really strong before the popularity of enemy controllers. This card was killed purely by Sphere Karibo. In case you're unfamiliar with what Sphere Karibo does, when your opponent attacks you, you can then discard Sphere Karibo to the graveyard and change that monster that's attacking you to defense position, which is what your opponent will do to your Karate Man when it attacks you. So to counter this, you use Smoke Grenade of the Thief. What Smoke Grenade of the Thief does is you can equip it to a monster on the board, this can be your opponent's or your monster's, then you destroy it using the card Storm, and when Smoke Grenade of the Thief is destroyed, it allows you to look at your opponent's hand and discard one of the cards to the graveyard. And the card you'll choose every time if it's there is Sphere Karibo, as this allows you to use your Karate Man regardless of whatever he has in his hand. Alright, so that is the basic combo of the deck. Now I'm going to talk about why exactly it's difficult and how you can make this deck go from a 20% win rate up to 60% easily. This deck is all about timing. You do not want to use your combo before you've got the max amount of cards in your hand that you can possibly get. There is a lot of risk reward involved with this deck, because a lot of the time you are going to be wanting to try and get your opponent to keep attacking you so you can keep using your golden apples and keep delaying the game as long as possible so you can keep drawing as many cards as possible to get those combo pieces and those essential cards you need to pull off this combo without risk of it being stopped. So once you're able to use your ability, you don't have to use it. You can continue to delay the game as long as you possibly can. You don't want to use the ability on the 5th turn if you don't have to. You can use it on the 5th turn and it will most of the time still get you a win, but it's a lot better to not rely on the ability to draw the 6 cards or whatever amount of cards. You want to have the max amount of chance of pulling off your combo that you can. So just delay the game as long as possible. This means if your opponent has 2 cards on the board and you have 1 golden apple and you think you can survive the next turn with just this 1 golden apple, you do it. You will not regret delaying the game. So if you still don't quite understand the strategy, don't worry, at the end of the video I will have a gameplay which will try and show off some good examples of discarding Sphere Karibos from your opponent's hand and delaying the game as long as possible. So don't worry about that. Go watch the end of the video if you want to see more about the strategy, but for now I'm going to go through each of the cards in the deck and talk about why they're in there. So I'll start with the monster cards. 2 monster cards are Karate Man and Iron Blacksmith Kotetsu. First card is Karate Man, which I'm not even going to talk about. It's the combo piece. I've already spoken about it. If you don't understand how it works, there'll be gameplay at the end that will show it working. The other card, on the other hand, Blacksmith Kotetsu, is another vital card for this deck. What this card does is allows you to, first of all, it can protect your life points as it's a monster card, so you put it on the board face down and it can stop your opponent attacking you for at least one attack. But then, the more kind of effective part of this card is once it's flipped, you can select one equipped spell card from your deck and add it to your hand. So normally, the equipped spell you're going to choose is going to be Shooting Star Bow, as you only have one of them in the deck, so it's the least likely of the combo pieces for you to draw. So you're going to, when it's flipped, you're going to choose Shooting Star Bow, draw that to your hand, boom, you've now got a combo piece in your hand without having to do top decks or using your ability to get it. And if you already have your Shooting Star Bow, you can then get Twin Swords of Flashing Light. And if you already have your Twin Swords of Flashing Light, you can then get your Smoke Grenade of the Thief. So this card is very, very strong and can get you to have the perfect hand for when you use your combo, as well as providing good delay to help you get to the perfect hand for your combo. Alright, now I'll go through the spells and traps. The spells and traps are Twin Swords of Flashing Light, Shooting Star Bow Ceal, Storm, Smoke Grenade of the Thief, Magical Mallet, the Golden Apples, and Windstorm of Etaqua. So the first two cards I'm not really going to go through. Basically they're the two combo pieces. Twin Swords of Flashing Light allows your Karate Man to attack twice, which is how it's able to hit your opponent's life points and one-shot them. Shooting Star Bow allows you to attack your opponent's life points directly, so you can ignore all their monsters, and is why Karate Man can one-shot them. Storm, again, I've already really spoken about this card. Basically, it's what you use to destroy your opponent's backline, allow you to attack your opponent guaranteed without them stopping your attack or negating it. It destroys your spells and traps, so you can set any amount you like, activate Storm, destroy the exact same amount of enemy spells that you just destroyed of your own. If you draw enough cards in your hand, you can even use Storm twice and be able to destroy even more spells from your opponent. So that's also a good reason why having a lot of cards in hand and delaying is really good for the deck. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention about Twin Swords of Flashing Light is it requires you to discard yet another card from your hand. So not only is your ability making you discard cards from your hand, but so is Twin Swords of Flashing Light, which is another reason drawing cards with this deck and delaying the game as long as possible is really good at making your combo successful. When you pull off the combo, you're going to need cards to destroy using Storm, and cards you're going to need to discard to activate your ability and your Twin Swords. Smoke Grenade the Thief, obviously I've already spoken about, so there's not much else to say about it. Basically, it's aimed at purely removing Sphere Karibo from your enemy hand, so you're able to hit your Karate Man guaranteed without that card intervening. It's also a perfect card for you to use Storm if you need an extra card to Storm to destroy your opponent's spells and traps. And it has synergy with Blacksmith Kotetsu, as it's an equipped spell, so once you've gained your two combo pieces, you can then use your Blacksmith to draw this card instead from your deck. Magic Mallet is a new addition to the Karate Man deck, and it is a very strong addition. What Magic Mallet does is it allows you to shuffle any amount of cards from your hand back into your deck and draw the same amount as you just shuffled back in. So if you have 5 cards in your hand, none of which are combo pieces, you can get rid of all 5 and draw another 5 cards. So basically you're aiming to use Magic Mallet after you've used your skill, so you draw however many amount of cards after discarding 2 useless ones, and then if you still have a bad hand, you can then discard even more useless cards to draw, hopefully, better cards. So basically Magic Mallet is able to increase the chance of you being able to get the perfect hand and the perfect combo off by a lot. So that's why this card is in the deck, specifically over any other card. The Golden Apples is in this deck specifically because it can block anywhere of 2 attacks or more. This is the reason it's in the deck over the normal cards like Sphere Karibo or Enemy Controller, as they both only block 1 attack, whereas the Golden Apple allows you to delay the game hopefully more than those cards could do. What the Golden Apples does is when your opponent attacks you and hits your life points directly, the amount of damage you took from your opponent's direct attack, you can then use to summon a fiend type monster in defense position or attack position, which will have attack and defense equal to the damage you just took. So what this means is if your opponent has just attacked you with their highest attack monster they've got, their highest attack monster can now no longer get through to your life points, as he has to go through a card with equal defense to his attack. So unless he buffs it or summons a more powerful monster, you can now delay the game infinitely. And even if your opponent is able to get through the golden apple with his next attack, at least you know the golden apple has now stopped 2 attacks hitting your life points, which is a bit better than what enemy controller could have done. Windstorm of Etaqua, again, same reason as the golden apples as to why it's in here over enemy controller or Ceal Karibo. Windstorm of Etaqua allows you to change the battle position of all face-up monsters your opponent controls. Therefore, when your opponent declares his attack phase, you can then change every single one of his monsters to defense position, so none of them can attack, therefore negating every single attack he was going to do. Alright guys and gals, that's pretty much it for this deck guide. If you want to see gameplay of this deck in action, if you don't quite understand how it works, or you just want to see it smashing people's faces in, just watch the end of the video. I'll have probably 2 to 3 gameplays. I'm not sure how many I'll include yet, depends on what kind of good footage I can get for this deck. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and like the video, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.